Good morning. How are you today? Saturday, 12/9/2023. Just a few short days from the Christmas. And of course, New Year's following immediately thereafter. So you just got a few more days to do your shopping. So go ahead. Well, welcome to the Portal Podcast with Bob Colbert. I'm Bob Colbert, your host. Today we will be talking about the Temple of Venus and Roma. So let's go ahead and go to the video.
The remaining structure indicates that there were 20 Corinthian columns built on a podium 15 meters in diameter. The roof probably had a vent at the apex to allow smoke release. The Temple of Venus in Roma is thought to have been the largest temple in ancient Rome. Located on the Velian Hill, between the eastern edge of the Forum Romanum and the Colosseum, it was dedicated to the goddesses Venus Felix, Venus the bringer of good luck, and Roma Aeterna, or Eternal Rome. The architect was the Emperor Hadrian, and construction began in 121. It was officially inaugurated by Hadrian in 135 and finished in 141 under Antonius Pius. Damaged by fire in 307, it was restored with alterations by the Emperor Maxentius.
All righty. Again, we're going to be looking at the Temple of Rome. So let me go ahead and get the picture of it up. So, as in the video, this is kind of all that's left of the Temple of Venus and of Roma. So as you can tell, there's not that much left of it. It's on top of the what they call the Vivian Hill right there. So let me get a location of it in relation to some obvious things. So let me go ahead and turn the map on. So if you remember from our Sketchfab model back a while back, we did a little tour of that. To the right there is Colossia or Colosseum. So that's kind of a familiar landmark. So if you kind of go, I believe, east of that, yeah. So you'll see that the Temple of Venus in Roma is kind of in between the roads or the streets, Via Sacra and Clivo de Venera Valise and Piazza del Colossia. So it's kind of a U shape there, but yeah. So this is the Vivian Hill. I believe I'm pronouncing that Valian Hill. Excuse me. So yeah, and if you wanted to kind of get an idea of the distance, that's 50 meters in that little box there shows the length. So it kind of gives you an idea uh, how long things are, a distance of it. So yeah, so going back and seeing that. So let's go ahead and read a little bit about the history of the Temple of Venus in Roma. So it's thought to have been the largest temple in ancient Rome. It's located on the Velian Hill between the eastern edge of the Forum Romanum and the Colosseum in Rome. It was dedicated to the goddesses Venus Felix, or Venus the bringer of good fortune, and Roma Eternal, or Eternal Rome. The building was the creation of the Emperor Hadrian, and construction began in 121 AD. It was officially inaugurated Hadrian in 135 and finished or completed in 141 under Antonius Pius. It was damaged by fire in 307 AD. It was restored with alterations by the Emperor Maxentius. A little history of it. The temple was erected on the remains of Emperor Nero's Domus Transitoria and subsequent Domus Aurea, and first the Colossus of Nero was moved and placed near the amphitheater, which shortly thereafter became known as the Colosseum. An elaborate domed rotunda from the Domus Transitoria is still intact beneath the temple. An extravagant architectural design, which included marble-lined pools and paving in multicolor. Unimpressed by Hadrian's architectural design for the temple, his most brilliant architect, Apollodorus, made a scornful remark on the size of the seated statues within the cella, saying that they would surely hurt their heads if they tried to stand up from their thrones. Apollodorus was banished and executed not long after this. According to the ancient historian Ammianus Marcellinus, the temple was among the great buildings of Rome, which astonished the Emperor Constantius the second on his visit to the city in 357. The sanctuary was closed during the persecution of pagans in the late Roman Empire period. Further restoration was performed under Eugenius, a short-lived usurper, 392 to 394, against the Theodosius I, whose policy was the restoration of pagan cults and temples. However, as with many of the Roman majestic ancient buildings, the temple was later targeted for its rich materials. In 630, Pope Honorius I, with the consent of Emperor Heraclius, removed the gilt bronze tiles from the roof of the temple for the adornment of St. Peter's. A severe earthquake at the beginning of the 9th century is believed to have destroyed the temple. Around 850, Pope Leo IV ordered the building of a new church, Santa Maria Novi, on the ruins of the temple. After a major rebuilding in 1612, the church was renamed Santa Francisca Romana, incorporating Roma's cella as the bell tower. A somewhat fanciful veduta engraving by Giovanni Battista Mercati depicts the site in 1629. The vast quantity of marble that once did adorn the temple has all but disappeared due to its use as a raw material for building projects from the Middle Ages onward. The Italian archaeologist Rodolfo Amedeo Luciana makes reference to his discovery of a lime kiln in close proximity to the temple in his work, The Destruction of Ancient Rome. The architecture of the temple, it was set on a platform measuring 145 meters or 476 feet by 100 meters or 330 feet. The peripheral temple itself measured 110 meters or 360 feet by 53 meters or 174 feet and 31 meters or 102 feet high. Counting the statues, and it consisted of two main chambers, the cella, each housing a cult statue of a god, Venus, the goddess of love, and Roma, the goddess of Rome, both figures seated on a throne. The cella were arranged symmetrically back to back. Roma's cella faced west, looking out over the Forum Romanum, and Venus' cella faced east, looking out toward the Colosseum. A row of 4 columns, tetrastyle, lined the entrance to each cella, and the temple was bordered by colonnadal entrances entrances ending in staircases that led down to the Colosseum. As an additional clever subtlety by Hadrian, Venus also represented love and Amor, or as Roma spelled backwards, thus placing the two divinities of Venus and Rome back to back in a single temple created a further symmetry with back-to-back symmetry of their names. With Venusella was another altar where newlywed couples could make sacrifices. Directly adjacent to this altar stood gigantic silver statues of Marcus Aurelius and Faustina the Younger. The west and east sides of the temple, or the short sides, had 10 white marble columns, while the south and the north sides featured 20 columns. All of these columns measured 1.8 meters or 5 foot 11 inches in diameter, making the temple very imposing. Most of the remains are incorporated in the Church of San Francesco Romana, and due to the rebuilding by Maxenius, a coffered vaulted ceiling replaced the original wooden roof, and the walls were doubled in thickness to take the increased load. The walls were inset with niches with small statues between small red porphyry columns standing above the floor on the plinth, all confronted by a colonnade in red porphyry. Today, since the papacy of John Paul II, the heights of the temple and its position opposite the main entrance to the Colosseum have been used to good effect as a public address platform. This may be seen in the photograph at the right if you were looking at the Wikipedia site. In the photograph on the Wikipedia site, there's a red canopy. It's been erected to shelter the Pope in current days, as well as illuminated cross on the occasion of the Good Friday ceremony. The Pope, either personally or through a representative, leads the faithful through meditations on the stations of the cross, while the cross is carried from there to the Colosseum. The temple has now been reopened to the public after an extensive restoration program that's lasted for 26 years. Access to the temple is included in tickets for the Colosseum, the Forum, and the Palatine Hill. All righty. I think that'll do it on the reading. So let me turn, let's see. I'll turn this off. Well, I'll just leave this on. So today we looked at the Temple of Venus and of Roma, Temple of Venus in Roma, as seen from the Colosseum in the picture. Today at 10 o'clock, please join me for the Table Talk podcast. Today we're going to be kind of doing an introductory look at artificial intelligence. So it's high level, so it doesn't get that deep. So yeah, please join me. There's no math. So as I've said before, I am an aerospace engineer working for Lockheed Martin. I actually develop artificial intelligence apps, so I have some knowledge for which I speak when I'm talking artificial intelligence. So yeah, please join us 10 o'clock for the table talk. And this was kind of a short broadcast or podcast this week. Again, we talked about the Temple of Venus and of Rome. I have been working on some additional pictures of the Roma villa that we're in. So let me show you that. The Roma as let's see. Whoops. I knew I would get it. So this is the library here. This was generated by artificial intelligence. And so this weekend I've been trying to create out this room as it's kind of panned around. So I'll show that in the next podcast. So before we leave, let's go ahead and look at the video again.
The remaining structure indicates that there were 20 Corinthian columns built on a podium 15 meters in diameter. The roof probably had a vent at the apex to allow smoke release. The Temple of Venus in Roma is thought to have been the largest temple in ancient Rome. Located on the Velian Hill, between the eastern edge of the Forum Romanum and the Colosseum, it was dedicated to the goddesses Venus Felix, Venus the bringer of good luck, and Roma Eterna, or Eternal Rome. The architect was the Emperor Hadrian, and construction began in 121. It was officially inaugurated by Hadrian in 135 and finished in 141 under Antonius Pius. Damaged by fire in 307, it was restored with alterations by the Emperor Maxentius.
Alrighty, I always go and do a second review of the video because I found through experience that people don't always absorb the first video in fullness. So it's always good to kind of get reinforcement. And so at the end of the podcast, we showed the video again. So yeah, so at 10 o'clock PST or Pacific Standard Time, please join us for the table talk. The topic today is artificial intelligence. It's high level, so we're not getting deep. So y'all, please join me. You'll find it interesting, I believe. So take care, my friends. We'll see you next week on the podcast, and it's getting very close to Christmas then. So take care.
What you do, you want to me, but I can't let it go so easily until I see what it could be eternity or just a week. We know our chemistry is off the chain, it's perfect now, but will it change? This ain't a yes, this ain't a no. Just do your thing, we'll see how it goes.